Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
What's wrong with Australia today?
For me, it's leadership. There's just a lack of leadership.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
And it's good to see the community come out and really engage in this issue of parental rights.
You only have one vote, but it's very powerful.
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Tripp. Thank you to everyone who are watching this. If you are watching this live, you can contribute to tonight's conversation in the chat. If you are watching us on YouTube, Rumble, or Facebook. Now, the link to StreamYard is also in the chat already. If you want to call in, we do encourage people to call in tonight and contribute to what we're going to be talking about. We want this to be an interactive experience, and you, the audience, are all part of this. So thank you if you can contribute and you are watching live. So thank you very much. The most important bit, or one of the most important bits, is letting you guys know about how you can support us. And that's by heading to Buy Me a Coffee. Now, the big yearly subscription came... only recently to StreamYard cost us $600, so we're happy to pay it. But if you can contribute in any way to buy me a coffee, head there, throw us a few dollars. It's much appreciated. It helps to pay, as I said, for the stream. Also helps to pay for the website. And most importantly, and our guest tonight is going to love hearing this, it gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside, which is extremely, extremely important. Also, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, we had a big week last week with a lot of articles, and I was interviewed on a number of different places. The best way to keep up to date with all of that is by heading to commandingthenarrative.com. You can hit the sign up button in the top right hand corner and you'll get a weekly newsletter from me. Best way to stay up to date. Don't rely on social media or anything like that, especially if you're under 16, because you won't be accessing social media very, very soon. So commandingthenarrative.com is the best place to go. Also, if you want to support Unfiltered Truth and independent media, please maybe lend some time to the Light newspaper, become a distributor, get that information out there. The Light relies on everyday people to get out there and support some independent media. So if you want to help distribute the Light, please head to the website, thelightaustralia.com, or if you're in Sydney and close to the Northern Beaches, call the number 0406 861 816 and you can help out with the Light. Now, lastly, also on Sunday night, we're going to have a big event. It's the Global Discussion Forum. It's back again. Now, this time it's going to be focused on Northern Ireland, which is going to be interesting for me because I don't know too much about Northern Ireland. But if you've got a little bit of an interest in what's happening overseas and how there's a lot of overlap with Australia and the UK and also America and other places as well, you might be very interested to join us on the Global Discussion Forum. You can head to commandingthenarrative.com and scroll down to the upcoming events page, and you will see the Zoom link here. If you want to participate with us and ask these politicians a direct question, or you can also head to the CIB UK YouTube page and watch it live and contribute on the chat. So that's going to be very exciting. Sunday night, Australian time, Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon in the UK. Now, it's going to be a good one tonight because I've got a very, very good guest on with us. Now, it's been raining here all day in Sydney, so it's good to get some sunshine all the way up from Queensland. The lady that's going to be joining us did join me on a panel way back, I think it was episode 9 of Commanding the Narrative, when we're talking about the reckless renewables up in Queensland. This time she's flying solo. I've twisted her arm to come on by herself. She recently ran in the Queensland state election in the seat of Gympie and did tremendously well. She ran for One Nation, and she's also the vice president of the National Rational Energy Network. Miss Katy McCallum, thank you very much for coming on. Welcome to Commanding the Narrative.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. I'm so glad to be here. I feel warm and fuzzy already.
Well, so you should, because I know you're a big supporter of us and we're a big supporter of you.
Yeah.
Firstly, big congratulations to you at the state election recently in Queensland in the seat of Gympie. As I mentioned, you did fantastically well. Actually, we can see the results here. This is the Gympie results, and you got 22.1% of the vote, which is only 502 votes behind the Labor candidate. So if you'd only got a little bit extra, you would have got ahead of him, and who knows what would have happened with preferences there. But the big thing is that you had a 9.5% swing towards you, which is incredible. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Look, I was only campaigning for 4 months, I think, not even. So I think that probably all my work with the Kilkeven Action Group in the last couple of years was definitely a good foot in the door with the region, with the Gympie region, because we've been hammered here with the rollout of, they're not even reckless, they're just bullshit renewable energy projects that are destroying this region and all the farmland. So I had that up my sleeve, which was quite handy. But I mean, the fact of the matter is this region's not just facing reckless renewables rollouts. There's all sorts of issues with the Bruce Highway and the hospital. So yeah, 4 months wasn't probably quite enough time. But as always, I leave everything to the last minute in my life. And I had no intentions of entering politics ever. In fact, I think you may have even warned me off it at one point, several times. And I jumped in feet first right at the 11th hour. So, yeah, look, I was pretty stoked with that result too. And it's not just about me. I've got to take the hat off to everybody in this region, because I had such great help. There is some awesome people in Gympie region, and I'd have to sit here all night long to name them all, but it was all those people that helped me get to where I did. I do think it gave the LNP candidate, he was the incumbent, a little bit of a shake-up. And I know him personally, which made it even more difficult. We live in the same town here in Kilkeven. So he had a very nervous look on his face at pre-poll when he did turn up. He didn't come very often. Look, I'm just happy with that result, and it gives me a really good platform to build on now. You know, it's another 3 3/4 years to the next state election here in Queensland, and I'll definitely throw my hat in the ring again. Absolutely. I enjoyed every second of it. I just didn't have enough time up my sleeve.
It's a huge life event for anyone that wants to put up their hand and run as a candidate, and you don't really know what you're getting into the first time around. What did you learn from the whole experience?
Oh my gosh, I could write a set of encyclopedias on what I learned. You know, the one thing I did learn is that I believe that the system is flawed on how we elect our members. I believe it's highly unfair that the incumbent member is already sitting there being paid to run his campaign or her campaign. They've got 3, 4, 5, maybe more staff on hand to work for them throughout that period, who are on full wages. Whereas if you want to give it a good red hot go, you've got to, every single minute of your time is volunteered. There was a lot of people, a lot of constituents who I spoke to who were under the impression that you got paid to run and that it was a job. Well,
it's true.
You know,
that happened to me as well.
Yeah, they did. And in Kilkeven, the general store, well, I had to put on 3 staff to cover the hours I used to work so that I could run as a candidate. And I mean, ultimately, the reason I was doing it was to help save the Gympie region from solar panels and wind turbines. And I'll continue to do that. But it is an expensive exercise, and it's a massive impediment on your family time and on your resources, financial and physical. It's exhausting. It ages you about 20 years, I think. So, yeah, that was the big thing for me. The bloke that was already in there, it was pretty crazy for him. He had staff and volunteers who did all of his work, and he just turned up for a few hours each day when he wanted to, you know. So I'm not sure how you would address it. I don't know. Maybe you've got some good ideas. I mean, I think that they should be made, when they go into caretaker mode, they should be made to step aside from their position and have to sort of on paper vacate that position and start from scratch, because it's not a level playing field. Mate, if that was a football game, it would be so one-sided that the ref would probably be getting beer cans thrown at his head, you know?
It's really the power of incumbency. Once you're in there, you've got the upper hand. So
Yeah.
to go up against an incumbent, you really need some big resources and some big money and some big exposure. And for minor parties, they just don't have that. So
Yeah.
I know the Teals are whinging at the moment about the changes in the electoral funding laws. Well, they know that they're not going to be able to spend as much money on their campaigns now, and that's a huge thing. It's really the reason why they don't do quite as well in state elections, because state elections, especially here in New South Wales, do have those funding caps. When you look at federally, Allegra Spender spent over $2 million on her federal campaign, and they won't be able to do that anymore. They'll be able to do it for this upcoming election, but it's the election after that it will be restricted. So,
It's ridiculous, isn't it? That amount of money.
Yeah, and they still cry poor. Yeah, we've got someone waiting in the background. I might just see if this is actually a caller or not. Sandra, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello, welcome to Commanding the Narrative, Sandra.
It's good to be here. It's good to see you two amazing people. Go, Katy.
Hey, mate, how you going?
I'm well. I couldn't resist listening to your experiences, so thanks for sharing them.
Hey, that's not a problem. I have to just be careful because I like to talk, so I've got to remember it's Stephen's podcast, and I have to shut myself up.
Now, Sandra, you've actually selected the call-in option. If you do want to watch it, it's on YouTube, Rumble, or Facebook. So, do you have a question for Katy?
Yeah, I guess I do. It was good to hear lessons learned. What would you say was the hardest thing that you had to overcome during your campaign?
I think debating, like live debating, standing there on the stage, being given cold questions that you didn't really know how to prepare for. That was difficult. But I think that when you speak from the heart and you actually really do care truly about what you're speaking about, that it's quite easy to answer the questions. It's just the pressure because there's all these eyes just glaring at you. So yeah, that was difficult. But the rest of it, I loved it because it was just a huge, like driving around, going to things, talking to people, airing my opinion, letting every other person air their opinion. So yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Now, Sandra, you're hiding behind a avatar there. Is it okay if we let the audience know who Sandra is, or should we remain anonymous tonight?
Tonight I'm a kangaroo saying drain the swamp.
With a massive six-pack.
Well, in that case, thanks for calling in, Sandra.
Always.
We better let you go. But thanks for contributing tonight.
Thank you. I'll go and listen on YouTube. Thanks for the tip.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, so one of the reasons I've got you on tonight is to talk about what's been happening in the Senate this week, and it's been a big drama. Now, Pauline Hanson. It's going crazy, isn't it? It seems that the Senate has attracted people that really just want to make a name for themselves, and they want to do that by trying to be bombastic or whatever. Lidia Thorpe is case in point for that, but you can throw in a few others as well. Now, Pauline Hanson raised an issue about Fatima Payman, Section 44. Now, if you want to know what Section 44 is all about, if you want to be a parliamentarian here in Australia, you need to denounce all other citizenships to any other country. This is it here. It says, any person who is under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or a subject or a citizen or entitled to the rights or privileges of a subject or a citizen of a foreign power shall be incapable of being chosen or of sitting as a senator or a member of the House of Representatives. Now, that's a real mouthful, but basically what it says, if you have dual citizenship, you can't be in the parliament. Now, this blew up around 2017 where a number of parliamentarians faced this issue, including people like Barnaby Joyce, Matt Canavan, and Malcolm Roberts, who sits in Pauline Hanson's party and right beside her in parliament. So it applies to everyone in parliament. Now, first, before we get to Fatima Payman's reaction, maybe we'll play what Pauline Hanson had to say first when she raised this in the Parliament.
This afternoon, we will vote on a matter that strikes at the heart of our democracy, the urgent investigation into Senator Payman's eligibility to sit in this Parliament under Section 44. Australians deserve to know that every member of this chamber is eligible under the Constitution, no exceptions. Senator Payman's situation, through you, Chair, raises serious concerns. If she had been elected during the citizenship crisis of 2016-17, there is no doubt her case would have been referred to the High Court to review. Yet now there are efforts to avoid the same scrutiny. Instead of addressing these questions head-on, Senator Payman, through you, Chair, is weaponising accusations of racism to divert attention and silence legitimate concerns. Australians are sick of this behaviour. It is an insult to the principles of fairness. The Constitution and the High Court are clear. Dual citizenship is incompatible with serving in this Parliament unless there is an impassable obstacle to renunciation under the law. We must ask whether the appropriate steps outlined by the High Court to meet this threshold have been taken, and the absence of clear evidence demands investigation. Adding to this, Senator Payman, through your Chair, has admitted on the floor of the Senate that she holds undisclosed documents related to her eligibility, which are not included in the Register of Senators' qualifications. So I will flag that I have again formally requested the President to consider referring this matter to the Standing Committee of Senators' Interests for inquiry, and hope this is addressed before the vote later today. The Australian people deserve to know the truth, and this chamber must deliver it. All I ask is for equality and for the same standards to be applied to everyone without fear or favour.
Now, that's what Senator Hanson had to say. Is there anything wrong in what she said?
No, not at all. And in fact, I did the grassroots test today. I went around and asked all the staff at my shop in a little tiny Queensland country town what they thought, and they agreed with exactly what got said just then. And in fact, they were so simplistic about it, they couldn't actually understand why this was an issue and why her citizenship could not be declared. It's a very simple yes or no, really, isn't it?
Well, it's a big deal. Like, if we look, this is, I mean, it's well documented what happened in 2017 and 2018. There was quite a number of these MPs that were referred to the High Court and had to deal with this issue. So, but, you know, parliamentarians should be well aware of this part of the Constitution, because so many of them lost their seats in Parliament. As we mentioned, Malcolm Roberts had to resign from Parliament and recontest the 2019 election. Barnaby Joyce had to go to a by-election and recontest that, and he was re-elected. But I don't understand how people think they can get away with it. But I am suspicious about this. Pauline Hanson has raised this now after Fatima Payman has been kicked out of the Labor Party. Now she's talking about starting her own party. Do you think potentially, and this is just a theory of mine, do you think potentially the Labor Party came to Pauline Hanson with this information and said, here, you bring this up in Parliament, we can't touch it, but you know, if you do our dirty work, we might help you with something else?
Look, it is politics, and anything goes on in those corridors down there. So who knows? Maybe that is what happened. But at the end of the day, my big question is, why can't Senator Payman just tell the truth? I don't understand. You know, Chris Kenny put it to Senator Hanson, I think it was yesterday on Sky News. It may not be fair to be picking on her to ask her this question, given that she came here under refugee status. And so she should not have to declare. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, when I worked in Toowoomba at the Toowoomba police station there, when I was still in the cops, there is a lot of Sudanese, a lot of all sorts of Middle Eastern people there that have come to Australia under refugee status. And there was never, you know, I had cause to deal with quite a few people when arresting them. And we had ways to contact the correct departments to find out the details about those people. And we would put in workflows to get the information to come from overseas. as to, you know, their date of birth, their age, their, you know, citizenship status. So why can't she just do that? And if it is impossible for her to get those details, why can't she just table the document that's come back from the department?
Well, apparently you can go on the Afghan website and denounce your citizenship. Like, it's an easy thing to do. I mean, maybe back when she went to Parliament it wasn't so easy, but now definitely she can do it.
Well, maybe we should look at the other side of the fence here. Maybe Senator Payman's using this as an opportunity to get herself some attention whilst she's about to launch a new political party. You know, it seems quite bizarre to me that you would want to stand up in the Federal Senate of Australia and put on a show like she did. You know, did you see Ralph Babbitt's face behind her?
Well, I've got the clip. Let's play the clip. It'll be a bit lengthy, but I think it's worth it because this is what this
absolutely. Yeah. Everybody needs to watch Ralph Babbitt.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
I am very honored that I live rent-free in Senator Hanson's mind, but I think you've got better things to do than worry about Section 44 here when there's nothing to see. I mean, the racism and comments and quotes that you've made in the past.
Senator Hanson.
I want to withdraw that racism. It's not racism. I want it withdrawn.
Senator Payman, I'd just rephrase that, please, and I'd ask you just to withdraw for the benefit of the chamber.
Deputy President, I would like to make a few quotes from Senator Hanson that has previously indicated.
No, Senator Payman, you have to withdraw for the benefit of the chamber, but then you can quote as much as you want.
I will withdraw so I can proceed.
Now proceed.
Thank you. Senator Hanson's quote, I challenge anyone to tell me one thing that I've said that is racist. And here I begin. There's a few. There's so many. We could be here all day. She has said, I believe we're in danger of being swamped by Asians.
Look, I'm going to pause it there. We'll come back to it. But, I mean, this is something that she said in 1996. She's going to take this to the grave, and it's probably going to live on beyond, you know, when she passes away. But we've shown what she said in Parliament. This Section 44 issue has got nothing to do with racism. I really do feel like Fatima Payman's using this issue as you said, a way of trying to get attention and to grandstand on this issue.
Absolutely. Because let's face it, the woman is standing there with the entire nation watching her. She's got free reign to do what she wants. If they wheel her in because she says the wrong thing, well, she can just, fix it up and go on her merry way. But she gets to say what she wants and she gets to build her name. And let's face it, if you want to get anywhere in politics, you've got to be relevant. And like we said when we spoke the other day, you've got to get yourself a bit of celebrity status. What is she doing? It's like politics 101, isn't it? That's what she's doing.
Yes.
That's exactly what she's doing. And she's doing it on taxpayer money in our time when there's better things that should be getting debated. And I mean, you look at what got crammed into that Senate over the last couple of days. Yeah. And she wasted her time on this. And I think that what we need to start to do is we need to take the attention away from Senator Hanson and start to put it on these people who want to argue with her all the time, like Lidia Thorpe. It's crazy. To me, it seems like it's the other side of the party in all these arguments that's looking for the attention, not Senator Hanson.
The Kahuna is in the house. Welcome, the Kahuna. I love just being able to have the opportunity to say the Kahuna, but the Kahuna says Payman put out a tweet that she smacked down Pauline. So, and then that's the clip.
I thought Ralph Babbitt was going to leap over the fence and smack down Senator Payman. With the look on his face. We didn't get to that bit, sorry, Stephen, but in about 10 seconds time on that clip, the look on his face.
Let's get back to the clip because we'll play this in full. And as Katie says, pay particular attention to Ralph Babbitt in the background.
In her first speech, in 1998 policy speech, she said Aboriginality would no longer exist under her party's policies. In another statement, she says, we're bringing in people from South Africa at the moment. There's a huge amount coming into Australia who have disease. They've got AIDS. If that is not racist, what is it? Oh, it's not racist. Oh, somebody bring the dictionary because Senator Hanson does not know the definition of racism. The fact that you would say just weeks ago to Senator Faruqi, piss off back to Pakistan, you're not just vindictive, mean, nasty, you bring disgrace to the human race. No dignity whatsoever as a senator in this prestigious place where we're supposed to bring unity, where we're supposed to have that freedom of expression, yes, but within boundaries and confinements of respect. I kept on giving you the benefit of the doubt, Senator Hanson, despite your repetitive attempts to be racist to anyone who does not look like you.
So, I mean, this just screams to me as someone that's running from the truth. I mean, put up a smoke screen so they don't focus on the real issue. The real issue is, what is your Section 44 status? Are you a dual citizen? Why are you still a citizen of Afghanistan? And if you are, why haven't you renounced that? She's putting up this racist thing and bringing up things that Pauline Hanson has said years ago. I mean, two of them were from the 90s.
And we already know. Senator Payman, we all know. We already saw it with our own eyes back in the 90s when it happened. We don't need to be reminded every day. You know, what we need to be reminded of is what you, as a paid politician of the Australian taxpayer, are doing to do your job properly, to fight for what is good for the people of this country. You know, I don't need to see our politicians up there screaming like that. You know, when we went down there in February for the Reckless Renewables rally and we went inside to the House on invitation from David Littleproud and Lou O'Brien, because all of the Queenslanders got invited in from them. I hadn't been there since 1992 when I was at high school. I was disgusted at the behaviour and the noise, and honestly, I thought I was at some sort of rabble that coming from the House, from the Labor politicians. The way they're all screeching and squealing, and I was disgusted. I was absolutely disgusted. So how a person can be paid by us to perform a job and get away with that behaviour, because if you walk into any primary school and you see a child squealing like that, they're going to be sent outside by the teacher. So why do these people get to stay there and get this soapbox to stand on? I don't understand.
A couple of comments here from the Kahuna. When you have lost the argument, you revert to yelling and name calling. Yes, exactly. Martin Taylor. Yeah, Martin Taylor says Section 44 applies to all equally without discrimination. So table the evidence.
Yeah,
which is a fair comment. I would
think.
It's
not hard. It's not hard. All she would have to do is go to that website and renounce her citizenship if she has it, and then provide a certified copy of that document wherever it comes from and table it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious. You can read between the lines and see what she's up to here. It's very obvious.
Right. I'm going to play the end of it because this is where Lidia Thorpe, another glory hound, in my opinion. She's just, I mean, what relationship she has to this, I don't know, but she wants to get involved and cause a scene just for her own. I don't even know what she's trying to achieve. She's trying to be a disruptor. Yeah, I guess so. And it gets her media afterwards. So this is the game that these people are playing. So this is the rest of the.
This isn't politics.
No.
Senator Hanson, point of order.
Racist.
Yes, Senator Hanson.
Yes, I do. And I want these comments about calling me racist.
You're a convicted racist.
Senator Thorpe, please. This is not adding to the Senator Thorpe. This is not adding to the debate. Accusing someone of being a racist is in breach of the standing orders. Senator Payman, just withdraw that and continue with your remarks. For the benefit of the chamber.
For the benefit of this chamber, I will withdraw. But you know what, Senator Hanson? How do you live with yourself, Senator Hanson, with so much violent hatred? How do you live through your days spreading hatred? How do you go to sleep? How do you look your neighbors in the eye knowing that you come to this place and spreading the vile hatred, the vile... comments that you make. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. I have no other words to describe your actions, because you come here and I don't know how you're going to justify it to every Australian out there watching, because I hope you're watching what Senator Hanson's doing. He's holding up business of the day because she is obsessed with me. Wow. Well done.
Maybe she should think about getting an apprehended violence order against Senator Hanson if she believes that she's obsessed with her like that. That might be what she needs. Stalking, maybe the charge of stalking.
The Kahuna says she really is on her soapbox. I mean, it's true. I mean, she's just trying to get attention. Now, the link to this, I want to point this out, is that recently Glenn Jury became her chief of staff. Now, we know Glenn Jury as the preference whisperer down in Victoria mostly. He's been operating behind the scenes for decades now, and surely, you know, he would know how to start a new party because he started so many of them throughout the years. He started the Sack Dan Andrews party just to try and peel off votes from the Conservatives when it was really a left-leaning party giving all their preferences to Labor and other parties. So this guy is trying to manipulate things behind the scenes. I'm not, I don't know this for sure, but you would only assume that he's telling Fatima Payman, this is a real big opportunity for you to, stamp your flag in the ground. Now, this is a clip from Glenn Jury where he admits that he's been working against the One Nation Party for a long time.
What I've been doing to One Nation, I've been doing it for years, and that is my hand on their electoral throat, squeezing the preferential life out of them.
At a cafe in Canberra, the so-called preference whisperer is busy working on his long-held private mission.
One sitting period and maybe stay. You know, David, I like to think of what I do in working against One Nation as a community service. And I've been doing this community service free of charge now for about 20 years.
So, what a legend. What a great bloke. Disgusting.
Like, do you think all of this is part of the community service?
Yeah, true. Don't even start me. He's got no idea what true community service is. To think that that's what a community service is, he's got no idea. He needs to get out and speak to grassroots people in rural areas like where I live and see what they think. Because generally, just about every single comment that ever is made by Senator Hanson or Senator Roberts or anybody to do with One Nation, most people out here agree with it. They may not vote for them when it comes to the time to go to the polls, but that would be for other reasons. They generally agree with everything that One Nation stands for. So he might be in the city. He probably needs to get it to the country. But look, on the balance of probabilities, it's quite obvious to me what he's up to and why he is Payman's. I think she's employed him as the chief of staff. Is that
chief of staff? Right? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious what he's up to. So let's see what happens next year. Let's hope there's an election called sooner rather than later. And let's hope that everybody over there in the West looks at her and her soapboxes and realizes that they don't want to pay her to carry a soapbox around anymore.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is she's not up for re-election.
She's only on the right. Okay, well, so we've got to listen to her for 3 more years then.
Yeah, I should have clarified that before we came on. Yeah, but I think that could potentially be the case. So I think it's the same with I think my internet's playing up, unfortunately. Can you still hear me there, Katie?
Yeah, you've just come back. I don't know if it's you or me. I don't think it's at this end.
No, I think it's me, unfortunately. Yeah, it was just a dropout in the internet for some reason.
You can still hear me, but
I can still hear you. I don't know what's happened to your. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Sorry, I was mucking around with it. Just as long as my horses don't poke their heads in through the window behind me, that's the main thing.
We got you back. Yeah, so she assumed office in July 2022. So she's on her first term. So we're going to have to put up with Fatima Payman for another 3 years after the next election.
she's just taking the next 3 years to build herself up then, isn't she?
Well, it's politics, and unfortunately we have to put up with politics. But this article here in the SBS, I mean, you can see Lidia Thorpe on the floor of Parliament, obviously, doing what she does. And she got suspended from the Parliament because she threw papers at Pauline Hanson, which, in the real world, you could probably say that is almost like a form of aggression or assault.
Yeah. Well, by definition in Queensland, it's assault.
Yeah. So it begs the question, is Lidia Thorpe fit for Parliament?
Look, so just go back to that Reckless Renewables rally again in February. When we went in and sat in the public gallery and David Littleproud asked Blackout Bowen a question on behalf of all the people standing on the front lawn of Parliament House, and Blackout was quite facetious and was making a joke about the fact that we were all out there that day. There was quite a few people standing up. They stood up in protest against Bowen's response to David Littleproud's question. Within about 2 seconds, we had 4 security guards on us. Nobody was making a sound. We just stood up. 4 security guards. One of them, I remember, because I thought, well, I better stand up too, because, with 2 shoes and I was always worried about getting locked up. But I stood up and he was right in front of me and he looked at me and he said, "Sit down now. You sit down or you'll be removed." And I thought, wow. So Australians visiting the house, not doing anything wrong except standing up, were threatened by 4 security guards that we would be evicted from the building, and Lidia can carry on the way she does. I mean, you don't happen to have that footage, do you, of when she slid across the mud out on the front lawn in front of Pauline and Malcolm? I think there was that social commentator, the female from Britain, who was talking on the lawn and it was raining.
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah, I
and
forgot
she's
her
just
name.
down on her hands and knees. So she's a representative of Australia as a nation, and she's on her hands and knees crawling around in the mud on the front lawn at Parliament House.
Oh, it's crazy.
I find it unbelievable that we can be threatened. Yeah, this one. That's disgusting.
This is her running up to. I forgot that lady's name, but someone in the chat might be able to tell us. And she did a similar thing. I think
we would have been arrested and charged with a public nuisance offence immediately.
Well, she did something very, very similar at the I think it was the Mardi Gras, where she threw herself down in front of the floats and refused to get up.
Yeah, and then look at how she carried on at the front of that strip club that night when she swore. And you know what? I've got a bit of a gutter mouth sometimes, but I won't even repeat what she said on those cameras that night.
Yeah.
I remember she was drunk and she came out of a strip club. I think it was somewhere in Melbourne.
Yes. Look, I mean, the Americans have the 25th Amendment, which basically says if you're unfit, we can get rid of you. I mean, there must be some clause in the Constitution that says if you're going to behave like this, you're just not fit for Parliament. You're not fit for public office. Like, you're meant to be representing the people of Australia and doing a lot of good for the people of Australia, passing bills, passing legislations that's going to benefit our lives, not carrying on like a pork chop like this.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if we had some other politicians down there who, and look, I'm not an expert on the Constitution, but I did read through it all today trying to find a section that was applicable to her and her behaviour. And I'm pretty sure there'd be some clever people down there in the ACT who could find the right section so they could get rid of her. Why don't they? I would love to have the answer to that question. Why don't they? Because if you did it, Stephen, or if I did it, we would be gone. They'd be locking us up in that cell down in the dungeon there under Parliament House that I've been told exists.
Well, look, I think she probably wants that to happen, because imagine them doing that to an Aboriginal woman.
Yeah.
And she's going to be
able to use herself till the cows come home.
Yep, she'll use it till the end of time. Just like Fatima Payman's trying to use this racism card against Pauline Hanson, bringing up things that she said from the past. I mean, look, anyone that's going to be in the Parliament for that long, especially from different eras, is going to say things that are out of context now, or maybe they regret, or they're going to say something stupid. I mean,
Yeah,
there's plenty of
absolutely.
things. It's just grandstanding and a desperate attempt to get attention and to build your political career.
Yeah, of course it is. And look, I can't speak on behalf of that court case and what's happening with 18C, but and what the ruling was against Senator Hanson, but it's a real slippery slope, isn't it, when we've got a judge that makes a decision like that? Because, okay, so I used to play footy, rugby league and rugby union. Some of the stuff that we used to bark at each other on the field about, oh, piss off and go back to New Zealand, you know, it's all, so I don't know, it's Australian, it's just the way we speak. What happens if her appeal is held up and we've got case law set? What happens down at the pub on a Friday night? You can't make a comment like that against some idiot from the other footy team who's in the same pub with you, or the cricket team. What sort of a precedent are we going to set for the future of this country? We're teaching our kids that you can't have a bit of good Australian fun and jest on the footy field or the cricket oval.
Katie, they don't want us.
That's where this is going to go.
They don't want us being Australians. They don't want us celebrating Australia Day. They don't want us to be proud of Australia, and they don't want us to be acting like Australians. As you said, that sort of go on. You know what happened on the footy field. It happens in a lot of places. It happens in construction industry. It happens in a lot of workplaces. Yeah. So they don't want us to be who we are anymore, and they'll probably turn around.
Do you know, just this last week, what date are we up to now? Armistice Day, which everybody seems to call Remembrance Day now. Do you know that there's barely a person who stops at 11 a.m. to take that minute's silence? And most kids don't even know what it is. And I was speaking to one of the 4 blokes who keep the RSL running here in Kilkeven, and he said that when you say the word Armistice Day, nobody even knows what it means anymore. So I said to my kids, so at school today, did they talk about Armistice Day or Remembrance Day? No. What is that, Mum? What's Armistice Day? Well, that's a fault on my parenting, isn't it? That I haven't taught them well enough. But they knew what I meant when I said Remembrance Day. You take that, you take Australia Day, you take Christmas, you take all of these things out of the framework for the culture of this country that we all enjoy, that makes it the place that it is, that is what has led to all the characters that have come out of this nation, all of them, including most of the people sitting in that big building down there in Canberra. They're taking it away from us. And why do they think there's no characters coming through in these younger generations? They're all robots. They've just been taught to be dumbed down. They don't think critically. They don't ask questions because you're not allowed to anymore. You're not allowed to ask, what is Armistice Day? Why don't we have a flag here? You know, what's this country going to be like in 20 years' time? We'll be a bunch of sheep.
What's this country like now, Katie? I mean, look, Sandra has said in the chat it was Posey Parker at the Let Women Speak rally, so thank you for that clarification, Sandra. But to talk about the youth and where they're going to get their information, look, I'm sure a lot of the youth don't even know what an RSL club is or what it stands for. They just think it's a club. They don't understand that its significance or what it is meant to represent. But there's going to be a lot of things that our kids are not aware of, because now they can't even use social media. It's been banned. So the government has passed their bill through the Senate. Yep. So anyone under 16 will not be able to use any social media. Now, this was a bipartisan effort. Both the Labor Party and the Liberal coalition supported this. And now it is going to come into law. I think they've got about 12 months to implement it. Yeah. And now kids won't be able to use Instagram. They won't be able to use YouTube. They won't be able to use TikTok, but they will still be able to go and use Pornhub and play video games and different things. So you've got young kids. What are they saying about it?
So my daughter's 13. She was horrified, and the reason why, so we pulled her out of mainstream school a few months ago, and she does distance ed through a Christian college up in Maryborough now. And and my son is still at school. He's actually just been elected as the school captain for next year in grade 12 at St. Pat's College in Gympie, and they're both devastated about the decision, and not just because it's going to affect them, because of the fact that it's going to affect all their friends and all of the kids around Australia. So my daughter's first response was, but Mum, that's how I stay in contact on Instagram with my friends. And I have sat here when she has been on Instagram doing Instagram calls, I think it's called, with her little girlfriends from over at Gympie, which is an hour and a bit away from where we live. And they're having a tough night. And they want to have a talk to Audrey, and they want to talk to me, Audrey's mum. And we're not going to be able to do that anymore as of the end of the
It's more than that, Katie, because a lot of these kids have relatives that live overseas, grandparents, cousins, uncles or aunties, and this is how they keep in contact with them. They keep in contact through Facebook, through Snapchat, through Instagram, through a lot of these platforms. They're not going to be able to do that. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways potentially, but I mean, it's not going to be as easy as what they've got it now.
I think it's ridiculous to take it away from kids. What I think the issue that we have here, and actually just let me go back one step, because I had a lot to do with bullying on Facebook and Instagram when I was still in the Queensland Police. We often had people come to the front counter of police stations complaining about dramas at their children's schools. Now, those parents, 9 times out of 10, simply wanted a police officer to fix the problem for them. And I would always get myself into trouble by putting it back on the parent and saying to them, well, what are you doing to fix it? And they would be silent, and then they would get defensive. And then I would find myself in front of the senior sergeant in trouble again, because I've upset a member of the public by questioning them about how they were acting. So the genuine cases of social media that have been involved in the worst cases of bullying, which leads to things like suicide, that is tragic. I am not taking away from the brevity of those situations. But there is just as much suicide going on that's not to do with social media. So how's about we spend a year or two researching that issue and finding out what's really causing the suicide, instead of just blaming it on Instagram and Meta, because those two platforms themselves are providing so much good for the youth. They are. I see it. I see it with my 13-year-old and my 16-year-old. And I have hung over their shoulders nearly every second of their lives growing up, to make sure that I could participate in everything that they were doing and that they weren't doing the wrong thing. This is about parental responsibilities. This is about freedoms of parents and children to choose the way they want to live their lives. The government has no place whatsoever in telling a parent that they are not allowed to use a social media platform for the good of their child, because they are taking away far more good features for parents. You know, when I was a teenager in the 90s, you had a landline, and I would sit on it for 4 hours on a Sunday night talking to my girlfriend, and my dad would be yelling and screaming at me to get off it. Well, we don't have landlines anymore. Where I live, they don't exist. They took them away from us. There is no such thing as a landline up here on this mountain top where I'm sitting. So how do they expect these kids to stay in touch with their friends and their family?
Well, Albanese's running around saying parents have been asking for this. I've heard Peter Dutton say parents have been asking for this. What parent has been asking for this? Because most parents would just, if they've got a problem with social media, and there are parents out there that are struggling because their child is being bullied, you just remove them from social media. Say, you're not going on there anymore. We're deleting your account. It's the responsibility as a parent to do that. What parent is standing there going, government, please help us. We need some help. We can't do this on our own. Well, maybe then you're not fit to be a parent. I mean, my kid, my eldest daughter is only 3, so I haven't reached that point yet. Maybe I'm missing something. I know you've got kids that age. Am I missing something?
You take a walk around the local shopping mall and have a look at how many prams that, first of all, the pram's worth $1,500, and it's got some big flash attachment so that a tablet or a smartphone can dangle down in front of the baby to keep the baby quiet. So I am dead set against that. that is wrong. That is a lack of parenting right there, because I grew both of my children up on my chest in baby Bjorns, walking around in shops with their little faces poking to the front, talking to them, telling them what was on the shelves. Why is that not going on? Why do we have babies in prams with tablets hanging in front of them? Because that's the beginning of the end right there. And that's what's leading to these kids being dependent on these devices. And they're going to spend their whole life addicted to it. They've set up the dopamine addiction cycle for that child from the second it's 4 weeks old. And they fail to speak to it as well. So it doesn't know how to talk properly.
Yeah, definitely. Now, there was some pushback against this, even though the coalition did support it. There were some members of the coalition that opposed it. This is Senator Canavan speaking on it.
I've also think, why is it that we've got this bill that seeks to, we say, the minister says, to help parents, and the word parent is not mentioned at all in the bill? There's not a single mention of the word parent in this bill. Why? Why aren't we helping parents rather than try to replace them? That's what this bill tries to do. It tries to set up a nanny state where we think here in Canberra that we can pass this law and all look how great we are, pat ourselves on the back, how we've saved the world, when it won't do that and it won't help at all. Parents use their own agency, their own interaction with their children to use social media responsibly. I've also...
So that's Senator Canavan from the National Party speaking. What do you feel about that?
I agree with him. I think it was Canavan and Antic were the two senators.
They were the main
right?
ones. I've got a clip from Antic. Antic was probably more to the point. Let's just hear what Senator Antic had to say.
Look, let's be very clear about this. We don't know if this is going to work, and we don't know if it'll have any impact on the problem they're trying to solve here. If you want to see some of the most egregious abuse you'll ever see online, go online to a Call of Duty game and listen to the kids going at each other, talking about people's... It's exempt. Quite right. It's exempt. So who's thought of that one, Minister? Who's taken that into account? And who ultimately is going to take responsibility when this goes the way of the Hindenburg, which it will, because it is a disaster waiting to happen? The Prime Minister and the Minister for Communications have boasted that the passing of this bill will make Australia a world leader in online safety. Well, they're wrong, because if this bill passes, we won't be leading the world in online safety. We'll be leading ourselves and those naive enough to follow us down the road to further digital authoritarianism, as outlined by Senator Roberts today. My fear is that when we finish tonight, we will have put another brick in the wall of a social credit style system in this country, and let everybody look back on tonight as a night of shame.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know, Stephen, the first thing that my daughter said this afternoon when I brought this topic up again with her, now she's 13 years old, right? And she said to me, she goes, so tell me exactly how they're going to make this happen, Mum. We went through it. And she said, isn't that like communistic? That was the word she used, communistic.
It is.
Isn't that communistic? She's 13 years old, and that is what she said. So because I have raised my children believe in freedom and sovereignty and to look after their bodies and to stand up for their choices in life. And that's why it's so important to make the right choices. And here she was saying that this is communistic. So she will remember the rest of her life that Anthony Albanese's government was responsible for bringing something in that she remembers being as communistic. How many other kids in Australia feel that way?
Yeah, well, look, Chu says in no way is it about keeping children safe. It's about forcing all of us, and Chu's correct. I mean, we all will now have to prove our age to use social media, because how do these platforms know what age we are unless we prove it? So forcing us to get a government-controlled digital ID. I mean, this is a big part of it as well. We're focusing on the kids, but this is going to touch all of us, and it is leading to a digital ID. What are the alternatives there?
Yeah, absolutely. And hang on, so say they give exemptions to kids to get online for certain educational programs that may come under this legislation once it's enacted, however it looks. I am not going to allow my 13-year-old daughter to have, well, she'll be 14 when it comes in, to have a digital ID where her biometrics are recorded. And in fact, many of the schools are now using the apps that you need to check your kid's report card or report an absence. You can only access them through biometrics. So I rang my school and I said, well, you can shove that where the sun doesn't shine, because I'm not giving you my fingerprints so that I can check my child in for being absent today because they're sick. So how can we trust the government with our children's most precious details, their facial recognition, possibly their fingerprints, their date of birth, all in one centralized place where it can be stolen from very easily? No, it's not going to happen. So we're just going to have to go to Telstra and ask if we can get a landline, or my daughter's going to have to get a carrier pigeon and fly it down from the front of the mountain here down into Gympie to get the messages to her friends, because we'll just be pulling off social media.
Or their parents will set up social media accounts in their name and let their kids use it.
Yeah, so I heard a tech guy talking about this today. So apparently the plan is that over the next 12 months, they're going to get these two companies to do a research project into how they'll make it work. And one of the options is that the camera on the device will record the child's face. Yeah, right. And now when I heard that, I was just like, alarm bells were going off. Ding, ding, ding. No way. I mean, you look at the amount of people who've had their faces put on to pornography and images put onto the onto the dark web. There is no way in the world I will allow my children to go on to any app where it's going to be recording their face to allow them to use it. Won't be happening.
And look, Bunnings is already doing the facial recognition. They just got caught doing it. They've been doing it since 2018.
They got in trouble, didn't they?
Yep.
That came out last week. Yeah. So,
yep. But will anything happen? Will there be any accountability for it?
Is there accountability for anything anymore? There seems to be a lot of accountability for the grounds roots layperson out here like me in the real world. I mean, I can forget to record the temperatures of the fridges at my shop, and I can get whacked with a giant fine under the food safe laws, but we can bring this stuff in. It's just ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Now, I want to get your opinions of Senator Alex Antic, because I feel he's shown real leadership here. And I've noticed some pushback today on X particularly. There are a lot of people pushing back against this, and I might read out the comments in a minute maybe. Now, people were saying that there's a lot of disaffected liberals out there. I'm one of them. A lot of people that don't have a political home. They've been looking at Peter Dutton and going, yeah, he's on the right. He's on the right track. He came around on the right side on The Voice. He's pushing this nuclear policy, which is a nation building policy. We agree with that. But now this has come up. People are going, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, this is not what we want. And it's really, it's almost like one step forward, 10 steps backwards for Peter Dutton on this issue. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback, particularly within the Liberal Party. I think there's people within the Liberal Party that are not going to be happy about this as well. When you look at potential leaders of this country, would you prefer Peter Dutton, or would you prefer someone like Senator Alex Antic?
Look, the fork of my pants is stuck on the barbed wire fence right here, well and truly. I am completely torn over this. I think that Alex Antic is an amazingly articulate, highly educated, but at the same time, down-to-earth politician that people can listen to and relate to. But I'm a bit of a loyalist, and I think that when you have a leader who's doing the right thing, that you have to stand by them.
But is he doing the right thing?
Well, okay, so this is the thing. Of course he's not, because of exactly what happened with this social media ban for 16 years and under. Right? And so, but you can't just hang your leader out to dry over that one thing, and I am so happy with the way he's gone with the nuclear. And I believe that the majority of Australians are probably feeling the same way, especially the young people. Like when you speak to younger people, probably anybody under the age of 30, it appears to me that they are all pro-nuclear, the majority.
Yeah.
They have no hang-ups over it. And, you know, that might be because they've got what Chernobyl means, but
how did they start to learn about it? Likely they went on YouTube or they went on some other platforms to learn about it.
Of course, they've been listening to Joe Rogan and to, you know, who else? I mean, there's that many great blokes on podcasts like you, Stephen, that are telling all these, you know, all these kids information that they're not getting from school. So that's where they learn about it. And look, what's going to happen when that social media ban comes in? X, that's a huge wealth of information for young people. But with Dutton, I just think that, and look, I've got a soft spot for him because he's ex-QPS, like Queensland Police. So that's just a stupid sentimental thing for me. And our good friend Richard Storch will be disgusted that he's just heard me say that because he thinks sentimentality is a weakness. But look, I do have sentimentality for Peter Dutton for that reason. So, but look, if for whatever reason Peter Dutton was not there anymore, I would say that my next pick would be Alex Antic. Absolutely.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've always been saying Jacinta Price, but she supported this bill as well, and which I was shocked about. But
you'd love to be a fly on the wall down there, wouldn't you? To understand how they've made their decisions.
Yeah, that's right. I mentioned I was going to read out the comments. This was a Channel 9 post, so this is fairly mainstream, you would think, on X. Now, some of these comments are, this is digital censorship. North Korea called. They said, nice totalitarian move. The implementation of facial recognition technology to prove all Australians accessing social media 16 years and above. So it's talking about, you know, now this is going to affect all people. You know what? They didn't ban for kids Pornhub. The Australian government just created a whole generation that will have hate for the government.
Yep, absolutely.
You clowns in the media wanted this, played Stoom all week. It will backfire on you. And it goes on and on and on. There's no support for this at all. I mean, Albanese is making a wrong turn at every stage. And you would only, I mean, even though the Liberal Party and the coalition supported this, this is really a Labor bill. It's part of Albanese's leadership. And he is completely going in the wrong direction. It's hard to understand that why the coalition are not, you know, way ahead in the polls, because Albanese hasn't done anything wrong. Now, one person that loves bagging out Anthony Albanese is Mr. Richard Storch, and he's just called in. Hello, Richard.
Hello. Nice to see you. You're doing
G'day,
so
Richard.
well.
I feel so warm and fuzzy now that you're on.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to Senator Payman, and it's like I'd just like to say that every senator's job is to represent their state, not a party. And we haven't ever heard her say anything about the cessation of live sheep exports, which is a big thing in Western Australia. And it's a big thing for the Middle East as well. But she hasn't said anything about that. So we can only conclude that all she's after is attention for herself. What do you think?
I agree. Absolutely. I agree. It seems obvious what she's up to me. I just hope that everybody else can see it. And so when that 3-year period is expired, she doesn't get a seat back there again.
Yeah.
But goodness knows what Australia's going to look like in 3 years' time, Richard.
Well, it's going to be a bit of a wild ride.
It is.
Stephen was talking about the energy famine we're about to enter on his last podcast with Alexandra, and you talked about it as well.
I hope you've got your air conditioner turned off down there tonight.
We don't need air conditioning here.
Well, that's funny because earlier this week, the news in Queensland was reporting that you guys were sweltering under a massive heat wave. And that New South Wales, you were all going to die. You know,
I did just have to take my jacket off because I was sweltering in this, but I'm in a dog box, so that doesn't count. But it certainly wasn't 40 degrees. It was just a normal day. It's what we used to call the weather. Sometimes you get a hot day. It wasn't tremendously, more hot than any other day that you would think at this time of year. It's just media propaganda, and it's come and sadly, it's coming from the Bureau of Meteorology, which should be focused on being as accurate as possible. But unfortunately,
don't let accuracy get in the way of a good story.
No, not at all.
Absolutely. But I mean, they make their money out of creating hyperbole, every step of the way. Everything's unprecedented and extraordinary. It's ridiculous.
And this just plays into Bowen's rollout of the reckless renewables, doesn't it? Because if you can put fear into people and make them think that their air conditioner will never run again if we continue down this path and we don't get these HV lines in and we don't coat our farms with solar panels, well, they're going to believe him because he stands there and he lies to people's faces and says he has the answers. And he stands in front of the National Press Club in Canberra and he says there's no people out here in these regional areas that object to these projects. So, of course, they believe him. Well, I guess they believe him. Do they all believe him? I don't live in the city, so...
Well, it depends. It depends on your personal situation. If you're wealthy and privileged and part of the elite, you believe what you want to believe because you can always look after yourself. You're not a renter living in a strata that doesn't have access to solar panels. You're just paying an energy bill for one or two people. It's not really a big deal. And the other thing is that when you talk to Greens or Teals, they've got a script and they say, oh, well, batteries are going to, fill the breach. And it's like they actually believe this stuff. They've got this cult-like look in their eyes. It's incredible.
Look, they should stick them all on Greyhound buses and they should ship them out into rural areas and show them the reality. They need to come up here to Baldycombe and see what it looks like when a battery catches on fire and what it does to the people in the houses within the couple kilometres around the battery that's on fire. They need to show them where their food's coming from. They need to point out to them that all of the toxic gases from those fires, all of the heavy metals, cadmium, the tellurium, the lead that seeps off these solar panels is going into the soil and contaminating the groundwater where the cattle and the sheep and everybody get their food, all the animals get their food and water from. That ends up in the grocery store. In the grocery store in Sydney, in the grocery store in Brisbane, in the grocery store in Coffs Harbour, in Murwillumbah, you name it. They're going to be eating it. It's going to be in the muscle tissue of all of the meat they consume soon because so much of our agricultural land is going to have to be covered with these renewable projects. So they need to put those people from those units in buses and they need to ship them out here so they can see what it looks like. Because every single person who comes up here and sees this giant monstrosity of a solar complex outside of my town, every single person who sees it completely changes their mind on renewable projects the second they get their eyes on it. So that's what we need to do. Or maybe the lights just need to go out, Richard, to make them all wake up.
Sadly, I think it's going to take pain of a financial nature before anyone wakes up. And I mean, it's a great idea to ship people out to see what's happening, but they're so afraid that they're not curious. So they don't really want to know in the second place anyway.
It's amazing what fear does to people, isn't it?
Well, you know that better than anyone, having been a copper.
Yeah, it brings out the worst and it brings out the best in others.
Now, Richard, before we let you go, we were making the link before about Fatima Payman's comment saying that she was just grandstanding to get attention to hopefully use that political capital to build her political party. And we were saying that she may have been influenced by Glenn Jury in doing that as her chief of staff. What are your opinion? What's your opinion on that?
It's a reasonable assumption. I mean, her focus is on probably starting a party that'll be in Western Melbourne and Western Sydney, and have some sort of base there. That's probably a reasonable assumption. I don't think it'll work, but there you go. I also love the way she called out Hanson for making violent racist comments, where she was the one that was chanting from the river to the sea in the Senate herself, which is an exhortation for the death of 9 million Israelis, 3 million of which are not Jewish. I mean, there's something absolutely unequivocal about that. It's violent, it's racist, and it's an exhortation for the destruction of a country and a people.
Two sets of rules.
Look, mate, thanks for calling in. As always, good to always see your smiling face, and I'm sure Katy was.
I am so warm and fuzzy. I think I'm going to have to hop up and put my air conditioner on. No, hang on, I don't have one. I'm a Queenslander. I'm tough. I don't need an air conditioner.
But on that note, Richard, we'll let you go. Thanks for calling in, mate.
Bye.
See you, mate.
Okay, Katy. Now, just to finish up, we know that you're a big podcast fan, and now
yes,
hopefully you're dipping your toe into the podcast world as well, and we can have you on more often. Now, this was I don't know where this was in the last week or so when this came up, but this is the ABC boss Kim Williams answering a question on Joe Rogan. I want to get your comments after we play this clip.
So I'm just wondering if you had any observations about what's behind the Joe Rogan effect, how you believe he's managed to so successfully capture this huge market. And then for us here in Australia, how would or should the ABC be going about capturing that kind of audience?
Look, I'm not sure that I'm the right person to respond to that question. I am not a consumer or enthusiast about Mr. Rogan and his work. I am not one of the 3 billion, and I'm unlikely to be 3 billion and one anytime soon. I think people like Mr. Rogan prey on people's vulnerabilities. They prey on fear. They prey on anxiety. They prey on all of the elements that contribute to uncertainty in society, and they entrepreneur fantasy outcomes and conspiracy outcomes as being a normal part of social narrative. I personally find it deeply repulsive, and to think that someone has such remarkable power in the United States is something that I look at in disbelief. I'm also absolutely in dismay that this can be a source of public entertainment when it's really treating the public as plunder for purposes that are really quite malevolent.
This just blows my mind. He starts off by saying, I've never watched Joe Rogan, and then he talks about all these things that supposedly Joe Rogan is saying and pushing. Like, does he not understand how much of an imbecile he looks like?
He's an imbecile, all right. Actually, I think the problem right there is, and look, I'm all for everybody having their opinion, so he can say what he wants to say, of course, but I think he's just jealous because he's not as relevant as Joe Rogan. I think that's what it is. He should get himself a honorary ice card.
Why would you listen to anything someone like that has to say? She asked, the question was, how do you attract younger people, particularly younger men? He gave no response. He had no answers for that. And
because he's out of touch. The ABC is out of touch. I grew up on the ABC. I lived in Roma as a kid. The only TV channel we got was the ABC. Every night, the goodies, the ABC News, started with Astro Boy, then the goodies and the ABC News. What else was on ABC at night? And then it was over. I think at 9 o'clock it stopped. And then there was no TV for the rest of the night. So I used to love the ABC. It had great comedy. Now It doesn't even, well, we don't watch mainstream media, but it doesn't go on our TV because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And we're paying for it. So if that guy does not understand why Joe Rogan is relevant and why there's 3 billion people around the world, and I'll take offense with what they say about young men watching it too. I'm a 48-year-old working, married mother with 2 kids. I watch his podcasts 2 minutes after they drop, the same as yours, Stephen, except the last fortnight because I was too busy. Sorry. I love Joe Rogan. I love Andrew Huberman. I love Paul Saladino. They are amazing wealths of knowledge. The guests they have on are highly educated most of the time, if they're not just, talking to somebody like we are tonight. That's where I go for so much information now, and so many people do. It's not just about men. I love Joe Rogan's podcasts, and I am a woman biologically. So that, I can't remember her name, that journalist there from the ABC and the boss of the ABC, they really need to get out and start talking to the real people, because they're going to find that they're so irrelevant soon that when Peter Dutton becomes the next Prime Minister, there may not be any more funding for the ABC. Let's hope.
Well, let's hope. Look, you can, as I said, it's clear that he's never watched the Joe Rogan episode. He doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. But if you look to America, it's clear that the podcast had an effect on the election, and they can't control these platforms. There's no possible way that they can control these platforms. And at least with us, obviously we're saying negative things about these people, but at least we play their clips first and then comment on what they've had to say. He would have nothing. He would know nothing about what Joe Rogan has had to say. He's just looking at it and going, well, he's a right winger, which he's not. He was always a Democrat.
He's a Democrat, absolutely, until what, a month ago.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's probably just going, oh, he's a commentator for the UFC, so he must be some, meathead, and with no intelligence. I mean, it just goes to show how out of touch these people are. But they're getting, I think, $7 billion to fund the ABC. Joe Rogan's not getting, he can do it out of his basement for free almost, and get way more audience than the ABC can. So look,
absolutely,
it's a sorry state. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. And look, if the ABC could just take a few tips off Joe Rogan, I might actually watch them again sometime in the future. But I can't see that they're going to, not when there's a bloke like that in charge. Like, seriously, take a look at the guy.
You know what I'd love? I'd love this guy to go on Joe Rogan.
Oh, no, yes. Oh, my gosh. No, he wouldn't last. It'd be like Kamala Harris. She set out her conditions as to when she wanted to speak to him and for how long she wanted to speak to him. And that's why I love those podcasts. They're long format. 4 hours he spoke to Evan Hafer for the other day. Over 4 hours. I've listened to every single minute of it. Because when you live in the bush and you're in the car driving a lot, you get to listen to lots of podcasts. And it is excellent listening. More people should listen, and maybe the world would become a far more peaceful place because we'd all learn to get along a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we didn't touch on anything that you're doing tonight apart from your election campaign. Now, I know that you're very well involved with this pushback against the reckless renewables rollout. You've got this Facebook page here that people can follow, the Kilkeven Action Group. Kilkeven is where you live. Do you just want to touch on that quickly and why people should follow the Kilkeven Action Group?
Yes, please. Thank you for the shout out. So Kilkeven Action Group's the Facebook page. We've had that running for a couple of years. There is an amazing lady called Jen Waldron who posts on that dozens of times every day. And she's now garnered us a huge following, like thousands of people are on there, which is amazing for this tiny little action group page. But Kilkeven's like ground zero for this southern renewable energy zone here in Queensland. And we've been quietly fighting a battle against Powerlink and Queensland Hydro and against Tilt Energy and the Queensland government for the last couple of years, along with the Stop Barumba and the No Forest Winds groups. And that's what led me to meet you, of course, at the Reckless Renewables Rally in Sydney, where I went to speak on behalf of Queensland. And on behalf of Kilkeven Action Group, I actually got to speak at the federal inquiry into the nuclear energy. I think that was 2 weeks ago, the one that went around Australia. So I gave evidence here in front of Dan, I think Repacholi, his name is, and Ted O'Brien and all the other Canberrians that came up. So we're going to keep pushing this wheelbarrow. We've got a lot to save. Just this week, one of our locals received paperwork from Samsung, of all companies, Samsung, saying that they have identified his 50 acres as a prime position for a battery energy storage system, and they provided him with this big glossy brochure about how amazing battery energy storage is and how it's going to save the planet, and he can be a part of it by joining in. And he brought it into me and he goes, Katie, can you do something about this? So that'll be one of our new fights now that we found out that we've got batteries destined for outside our town. I'm not sure that the majority of Australia yet has woken up to what's happening in the rural areas because of BESS, battery energy storage systems, because of HV lines, because of panels, solar panels and wind turbines. For us in particular here in Queensland, we've now got a fool in charge called David Crisafulli, who most people don't even know. And he's saying that he's going to go ahead with the pumped hydro project at Burrumba, which is this stunning dam up the back of the Mary Valley. And if that dam goes ahead, they are going to be breaching so many international treaties and conventions Australia has signed up to over the last few decades in relation to critically endangered species, flora and fauna that are listed on United Nations, matters of national environmental significance. I can't believe some of the decisions that have been made. And he is maintaining that we need that. Well, no, we don't. What we can do is we can slow down, stop all these ridiculous renewables projects, look at nuclear as an option, and maybe even consider continuing to burn the thousands of years of coal that we have sitting in the ground here instead of sending it to China. So, you know, there is a lot of ways around this because once our farmland's gone, it's gone for good. You'll know Jim Wilmot and I started the Let's Rethink Renewable campaign as well. And that was based on the 5 pillars that we identified that we believe make up Australia. So the wildlife habitats, our strong communities, our Australian way of life, our rural landscapes and our productive farmlands, that pretty much makes all of Australia up, except cities. That's it. You know, and we've got cities anyway, so that doesn't need to be there. But those 5 pillars, once they're gone for good. And yeah, there's our koala. And we need to really get this message out to Australians that they need to understand that once you remove an ecosystem and once you destroy, and whether that ecosystem is wildlife habitat or whether it's an ecosystem in terms of a small country town, once it's gone, you don't get it back. You can't just replace it. You can't just call an urban planner or an architect and say, please come and rebuild this. We destroyed it because we made a stupid decision 10 years ago. No, it takes hundreds of years for these communities to end up where they are. Oh, sorry, Stephen. I think you might have lost me.
Yeah,
You still got audio?
you. Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
We've
Yeah,
lost
so
you.
yeah, we'll still keep going. I mean, we've got a massive battle ahead of us. I mean, when we went to the Nuclear for Australia meeting in Kingaroy a couple of weeks ago, it became very clear that even if we go down the nuclear path and they turn the coal-fired power stations off, there is still going to need to be industrial-sized renewables to top up the grid in that morning peak period and at the evening peak period. That just seems absolutely silly to me. I don't understand. I can't get my head around it. So we've got a massive battle on our hands because we're fighting for the future of the country. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for food security. We're fighting for electrical and energy security. And those things right there equal national security. So, yeah, that's why we're going to keep fighting.
No, well said, Katie. Well said. Now, I don't know. Are we going to get you back on camera or is it something?
I'm not sure. I'm all plugged in at this end, mate. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah. What I might get you to do, if you've still got the link there, I'll just remove you from the studio and then come back and we'll just finish up.
Okay.
Okay. And Katie's doing that, I will just remind everyone, if you do want to support us and everything that we do, please head to Buy Me a Coffee. It does really help out with the cost of the stream and the website and everything like that. So if you would like to show your support, please head to Buy Me a Coffee, and more importantly, also head to the website, because you will get a weekly newsletter, and we are doing a lot of things coming up as well, hopefully. And so it's the best way to keep up to date with everything that we're doing. Hit the sign up button in the top right hand corner and you'll keep up to date with all of it. Katie, you're back.
Hey.
It's good to see your smiley face again. To finish up, now this is I wanted to bring you back because this is the most important part of the whole podcast. I'm sure you know this very well. It's called Build Your Own Fantasy Government. Katy McCallum.
I have been thinking about this all day long.
Well, I'm sure that you don't need me to explain it to you. I'll just quickly explain it to the audience. Katy is in charge of the next Parliament of Australia, and she will be able to choose 5 or 6 people to head up that next Parliament of Australia. It could be anyone, living or dead. Doesn't have to be a politician, but you are in control, Katy. Who do you choose?
The problem was I came up with about 20 people. You were on the list. and so many other people that you know. And I've got to get that down to 5 people, which is quite complicated for me.
Well, it doesn't have to be 5.
I love everybody.
If you want to give us 20 and you can remember 20 names, I mean, feel free to rattle them off.
Oh, look, you're going to think that this is really bizarre. But if I could have Neil Armstrong on my list, I'd be happy. Because I think he's probably one of the greatest human beings. And for all those people who think we didn't land on the moon, whatever, that's fine. You can have that thought. But he was still an amazing human being. But in terms of Aussies, and this won't come as any surprise, I am a huge fan of Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson. I knew Malcolm long before I joined One Nation and ran in the state election. And I have had hours and hours and hours of discussions with the man. He is truthfully one of the most amazing humans I have spoken to personally. So Pauline and Malcolm and Neil Armstrong, for sure. And Catherine Pegg, or Bennell Pegg, or Bennett Pegg, however I say it, who's our new Australian astronaut. She's the first Australian to ever become an actual Australian astronaut. She's just completed the European Space Agency course, so she might be getting up there soon. She would be amazing at keeping the peace between everybody. I think we need to keep the peace. There's some real issues with how angry everybody is these days.
Yes.
And I think I'm on 4 there at the moment.
Colin, you said you had 20 and you picked 2
Well,
astronauts. Obviously, you want to
see
see Australia have a space program or something.
I do, absolutely. I've been getting around wearing NASA caps since I was a kid. Look, the next person would have to be my dad. His name's Les Wilson. So that man has to have the most commonsensical brain I have ever seen on anybody. He's a Vietnam vet. I grew up in the shadows of that with him, which is where I got, I guess, my thoughts on freedom and thoughts on service to your country and service to your community. I would not have been a police officer for all the years that I was if it hadn't have been for his influence. And I think that men like him, and I'm not being sexist by excluding women in that comment, I think that men like my dad are amazing people who we could learn so much from, so much. And, you know, it'll only be another couple of decades and all of the people like him will be gone.
Yeah.
So I find that really sad. These kids,
we're taught to demonize them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, go back and read some of the stories about what happened to the Vietnam vets when they came back. You know, my dad has suffered his entire life because of that. But he still got married and raised a family and put a roof over our head. He built our house with his own bare hands. And I think that those people, you know, if we had men like that running departments in the government, the world would be a far better place. So, yeah. So that's my 5. I see Shay Rules on there. She said she wants the 20, but I'll give them to her another day.
Okay, very good. All right, Katy, thank you very much for coming on. As I said, we'd love to have you back some other time. Maybe include you in a panel or something as well. They're always fun. We're going to have to get you to come down to Sydney sometime so you can join one of our panels there. But I know you're a long way away, and when
Well,
you
as
do
long
come
as I
down...
get to sit next to Richard and hear him laugh, because that laugh of his is brilliant.
It's quite an experience to go to Richard's house, I must say. But thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to you, because your podcast is one of my favorite things to listen to. And I'm not just saying that because I think you're a good bloke. I'm actually saying that because I am dead set genuine in those words. I think that you are the Joe Rogan of Australia. That's what I think. And I believe that I tell everybody I speak to, you need to listen to the podcast. You and Adam, you know, when I first met you, I was blown away by because you know me, ex-cop, jumped online. Who's this Stephen Tripp guy? Checked you out.
Yeah.
You know,
it's funny. I'm gonna
have you.
I'm gonna tell a little story about when I first met Katy. It was at the Reckless Renewables rally in Martin Place, and she was you were hosting that one, right?
No, I did. No, Grant Piper was hosting it, but I did hop up. I think I had 8 minutes or something. I did a speech.
Yep. She says Katy for PM. You know, I think that's a fair comment. But you made this impassioned speech, which you're known to do, and I said, "Wow, that." She's amazing. That woman is amazing. So I made sure I came up to introduce you, and I said, you know, my name's Stephen Tripp. I do a podcast. Would you like to come on? And you just looked at me like, who the hell are you? Like,
well,
get the hell away from me.
Only a few minutes before you came up, a lady from is it the Epoch Times?
Yes.
Is that a Chinese publication?
Yep,
who barely spoke a word of English had come up and said to me, she just walked up to me and she shoved her business card in my chest and she goes, "I want your speech." That was all she said. "I want your speech." And she walked off, and then you came up a few minutes later. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, who's this guy? Where's he from? CIA?
Yeah, well, you never know these days, do you? Anyway,
I'm always suspicious.
We should finish up on that note. Before Katy gets carried away. But look, thank you everyone tonight. You know, there's been a lot of interaction in the chat. We've had callers, and that always makes for a fantastic episode because it's more interactive when we get to hear what you're thinking, and it's always great when we get a lot of involvement. A lot of people on the Rumble tonight. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Katy. Please share this out. We do rely on our audience to get it out there. Please support Katy and everything that she's doing. As I said, head to Facebook and follow the Kilkivan Action Group and keep up to date with everything. You're always traveling around the country speaking to people with your sidekick, Jim Wilmot, who I've had on previously as well. So I can attest to you both. You're both great people, great Australians, and you're really fighting for this country. So thank you very much for coming on.
We've got a lot to fight for, haven't we? All of us.
Yes, and it's up to us to protect this country and to stand up and try and keep what we've got, because as you say, once it's gone, and it's unrenewable. So thank you to the audience. Thank you, Katy, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.